I'm Judy Harrington, recording for Last Saturday Poets. This year, 2025, we are doing an audio anthology instead of a book. So there will be about 20 of us reading for about a half an hour from our own poetry. My background is in education and also writing. I've been writing poetry for a long time, and I've composed a number of novels, some of which are still available as limited editions. So my poetry is lyric poetry, and I try to keep the language intense but simple. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but I think it works. At least it does for me. The first one I'm going to read today is a poem called Spikenard. I wrote this with the idea of having it be a song for Holy Week, but I don't sing, and there's a certain format for songs that this does not exactly comply with, but I'm doing it anyway. So it really is about the resurrection and the hesitancy of the resurrection. Weep aloud, don't touch me. Why? The wounds are there, I see them everywhere. You know, I thought he was the gardener, lost carpenter, now found. I saw the shroud, who rolled back the stone. Heaven sent, frankincense, spikenard in my hair. Where have they taken him? No one, nowhere. Everyone and everywhere in white, angels dressed in light, on guard, lost carpenter or gardener. Don't touch me. Why? Weep aloud, the wounds are there, I see them everywhere. Poems and prayers shall now resound. Once lost, we now are found, until the final trumpets sound. I am trying to get into the personhood of the Bible wherever I can and take on the feelings and the emotions of some of the characters in my poetry. For example, here, of course, it's Mary Magdalene, who was the first one, in John anyway, the first one to show up at the site of the resurrection, not expecting a resurrection, of course, but coming across Jesus, whom she didn't recognize, and he wouldn't let her touch him. So that's where this poem came from. She must have been very confused, as I would have been. And we're not sure that she was the one who wiped and anointed Jesus' feet with her hair, but I think so. This poem is called The Listener. Recently, my poetry feels channeled, speaking in tongues of angels and occasionally demons. Sophia, the ancient feminine, whether divine or mundane, cadence of prayer without motive, inspiration as varied as praise, often hidden visions of gestalt abstraction, sometimes reminiscent of news, whether local or global, casual, formal, antique, modern and dangerous, delusionary, all prompts echo what lies before me, behind and within, as above, so below, entanglements to be broken and mended, gold links in a chain of remorse and sorrow, magnets of pleasure and joy, and so inscribed with luminous pain. The old silent voices are ubiquitous, a river, a stream, a torrent of obscure language, everything speaking at once on ladders of flame, descending, voice of wren searching for home, too sad for tribute between glass, dove rising, bird flew ironic where we found her, never waiting, always present, gifts unrelenting, shocking, awaiting translation, graphic transliteration, interlinear revision, mine. Illustrated broadside for the listener who haunts my melody, timeless. Honestly, I refuse to memorize my own words. The performance is engaging because they are endlessly changing. Gilt curios fall off the page, queued up for reading. I cannot carry a tune except in unison. The lyric of light is a shared burden, but for us, lost in the glitter of remembrance, forgotten. There are a couple of words in this poem that I would like to gloss for you. Entso is a circular brushstroke in Asian art, and it's a perfect circle, except, of course, when it's drawn by hand, it's never perfect, and that's the point. Ladders of flame descending. There's a connection with an Old Testament text that has ladders reaching the heavens, Jacob's ladders. And I've always been intrigued with that image. So it shows up in this poem. And of course, I like the double meaning, bird flu ironic, where we found her, bird flu, F-L-U. We've had a lot of bird flu in Colorado, and also F-L-E-W. So that combination of meaning with one sound I really like. I appreciate silent voices because the silent voices, of course, are in my head. Sometimes, yes, it feels like I'm being channeled, but by whom, who knows? This poem is called Coup, and it is based on a situation when I was teaching high school students a writing class, and we always tried to come up with ideas of things to write about that were a little bit off the wall, but certainly had some kind of emotional impact. And in those days, we talked about what it would be like to secede from the Union if Colorado could do so. What all did we have that could sustain us? Of course, it's ironic and it's a joke, and we're not seceding and don't expect to, and we'll work it out, you know. This one is called Coup. Some of us wish that somebody would stage a coup, sung to the tune of Purple Mountain's Majesty, which I don't know if this fits or not. I don't sing, but here goes. Coup. Why not secede from the USA, embargo every elsewhere, a more perfect union, UN and NATO, EU, water flows in all ways from the Colorado snowpack? State lines, stop the Colorado River, north, south, east, and west. Enough troops stationed here to stage a coup, close the highways, except for our own license plates. Reroute the rest to Texas, anti-vax, some others hell to pay. Kennedy Center, now theater works empowered. Shakespeare and PBS allowed in every eye and ear. Pay state taxes gladly, keep our wildfire fighters home. United States Air Force Academy, NORAD, commandeer secret Denver airport tunnels. Air traffic controllers, easy. All flights one way. Ride south the red-eyed horse. Bottle Palmer Lake and Manitou Pure Springs, unrecycled waters. Recommission Fifth Mountain Huts Division. Strike bargains with Greenland and Canada, Panama, the border. Change Rocky Mountains back to native names. Space Command, take down Starlink. How was the election won? Swearing in, a no-hands Bible. Satellites, abandon Earth for Mars. Tick-tock, the bombs will drop. X marks the spot. ITAI, who cares? Everybody works from home and streams. Cheyenne Mountain, NORAD, Fort Carson, still open for nobody's business under Colorado's rainbow flag. No wonder California wants to move here. Gaza Riviera, repositions at the Broadmoor. Raptors labeled Arabic, land from Kansas, to prisons underground. Chinese character constellations, dark sky. Explosive ordnance group, stockpile nuclear weapons, release their women along I-25, huddled masses and all blue states invited, RSVP. Honestly, Governor Polis, please save us. Reopen Rocky Flats, mine radioactive tailings. Rare earth minerals set a new gold standard, plenty of molybdenum on the western slope, wind and solar power everywhere. Lithium's available in Gunnison, battery-run locomotives to Colorado's national local parks, reserved, no lines. Shaman's cure at the Sweat Lodge, uprising, focus on the unwanted family, birth rates declining, immigrants come out of hiding, years and years of the orange Antichrist and minion. We pray the second coming's coming first from here. This one is I call Soundless Forest. It's based on a photograph that my son did of a rock formation in a national park somewhere. I'm not sure which national park. And it looks like an arch is trying to form in the rock. Soundless Forest. Young cave in russet rock, how long does weathering take till sanctuary or support arch emerge? Does silence carve as well as sound, vibration notwithstanding to the ear? Oldest waves deter every human intervention. Water, petroglyph deferred. Escaping drought, the Anasazi left, or did they? Absorbed by cultures now lost to climate change. Jungle ruins telling archaeologists almost as much as ancient footsteps, petrified in white sand, disappearing on the run. Someone must have been here, sad to think of soundless, falling trees. In forests where green means everything, except to blind man's bluff, to deaf woman's sign? Does the absence of the human ear mean as much as nothing, being there forgotten? Especially when the wind blows, someone must be watching. If anything gets done, an observer, a ghost at any distance, mystery entangled to accomplish creation, regardless intentions conduit. Look closely, tangled, hidden in the brush, plague's mask looks on, beaked bird hidden in lush barrenness, wintry reminder, beauty, in fact reality, is truth beholden to human sensory deception, necessities, distraction. I wrote this poem during COVID, and there are echoes of those feelings of isolation in this poem. This next poem I call Ghost Horses for the Bureau of Land Management. Here horses live forever, back to the local dinosaurs. Infinity competing with eternity, near what's left of fossils flaking out from under shale, pale as the long-gone ocean dropping this wide canyon, into a valley open to towering clouds of sky. One paleo river remains, the color of mirrors reflecting time, like rushing, determined, an invitation to stay. The fancy gate is locked to nowhere, so we missed it. Since the fence is missing where the stallions were, we ought to buy it for them so we could visit and ride with the wind together. Outlined contours in the distance are reminiscent of a landscape from another life among many. I almost remember as though this place is a memory of the future, a family compound we hoped for, things poised, waiting for instruction, where to continue, more than surprising how everything's ready, turned on, 2 dwellings all ready. Water runs in the sink from the faucet, the cistern, flushing commode, water in the washer, and dryer connected in the alcove, cool air from the new air conditioner. The fireplace has cut wood by the door, not to mention the dish pointing skyward, furniture, and the gas stove. Its white propane tank glows in the other yard. A relevant echo of recent gunshots, a stampede of targets, resounds above to the east on enshrined lands. Lost tribe Pawnee stage along the ridge of Palisades, their ponies wild, archaic, waiting for existence, an occasional forelock, and the sound of hooves pounding backward elsewhere. Manes slow motion into the foreground. Strange equine sculptures appear in the neighboring paddock. Illegal eagle feathers, sacrifice of the skidoo, inscrutable petroglyphs, a star chart on skin from as far away as the Pleiades. Sweet dreams rewrite nightmares by moonlight, a harrowing drive to the wolves, howling their dirge of hunger, to a wrapped carcass on the buckboard. Recast and involved as someone else's bareback ride, even evidence of comfort, after all, traced by the arrow of history into your open arms. Everything I write comes from my experience of one sort or another. And this particular one has to do with a piece of land, 72 acres, that's for sale, about 15 minutes away from Canyon City. And I went out there to look at it with a friend of mine who's a realtor. And there were 2 dwellings there, as I mentioned in the poem. And my imagination really took hold. It seemed so unusual and so beautiful. And it felt as though there were elements of history that materialized as I looked around. And of course, it's an illusion, but it certainly carries the emotion for this poem. Here's one that I call The Mouse and the Avatar. White mouse, lab rat, all futures reconciled by wisdom's failure to perceive. Intelligence, humility is perfection's impossible tenacity. Sequenced so much like us, genetically, biologically, those mysteries composed in rings by heaven knows, can take our deficits where we cannot. Retrieve relief ourselves alone, tiny pink-eyed sacrifice, amazed, willing, whether surely not understood, not even close, misunderstood. Gratefulness makes us kind, or should. If only we could justify our own irrelevance to a larger scale, where we stand in for better angels, like Viktor Frankl knew at Auschwitz. In the largest scheme of things, would we acquiesce more easily to suffering, pain to evil, death by any other name, if we only realized all rings fit and watched with others' eyes, the vanishing point of view, the cure, a horizontal leap of avatars, though drowned by light, too bright to see, empathy from earth to dimming stars. The mouse, especially the white mouse and the lab rat, have a special place in my heart because of the scientific and biological connection that we have to these mice, who have such a similarity to our own DNA that they can stand in for us in many situations and have improved our lot just by their death. A friend of mine named Linda Close has a special art that is called Zentangle. You can find out about it easily by doing just a little bit of research, but I'm so impressed with what she does. And because of that, and because I know Linda, I have written a poem that has to do with her art and with her, for Linda Close and her Zen. Tanglement. Organic mysticism enthralled by form, tiled 2 by 2 with theories of string. Arcing quantum fields are captured by your pen. Phantom limbs stalk repetitious holograms. Spectral dimensions fill the empty cosmic plenum. Scroll knotted into nodes. Nets unfurled to catch songbirds on the wing, as well as all of us, eventually released, once our secrets are disclosed. How beautiful the anonymous grandmother, together with her lovely unknown daughter. First sepia portrait, white lace, veils line the steps before the school became a parking lot, and adoption was the rule. Gorgeous fractal lines. They line the shore of memory. Snowflakes appear, then fade and disappear. Solace of the human face escapes into abstract relief of curved pattern and shade. Prescribed by modern Hindu priests, their vespers whisper mandalas of rapture. Empathic healing, I thought was yours, is mine. Who knew that yes was not the only option? Multiple dimensions, most sensitive and healing, carrying infant life, salvation's missionary. One by one, found children all together, fragments coalesce like magic, in repetitious, unexpected visions. Petals drawn up and draw us up into huge galleries, complexities of wonder, underwater sea, aqua-tinged abundance, down into opening folds, holding hands of fronds, seeds, leaves, ancient, heirloom, and unique. The singularity of growth, pinwheels up, across our eyes, breathless with delight. All technique, practiced meditation, focused vibration, emerges deepest exploration, carved and shaded, finest ink into finest paper. Portfolio takes flight. You can't tell unless you know Linda or you've had a chance to talk to her about her growing up years, her experience as a nurse and a kind of flight for life nurse for newborns. But there is much about her that's enclosed in this poem. And her art is the main thing. I really enjoy writing about art. And I'm not sure that the artist always likes what I come up with, but it's a shared experience. And I really love her painting. Here's one I call Magpie Fight or Flight. One of the members of our last Saturday Poets group is a professor at the Air Force Academy. He has a book out that has to do with magpies and the connection of magpies to the realities of life and death as a way of life on this planet. Magpie fight or flight on Father's Day. At the stop sign on the gravel shoulder, almost under my right front tire, a black and white cockfight. Or were they mating? More common this springtime, though most likely in trees, on the wing, talking in song this side of the Atlantic, the Mississippi. How to tell which is which gender? More likely both males at a rate of such aggressive fitness. Young ones, no doubt territorial, incensed by the red of the stop sign, any sign. Are birds colorblind? Especially grayscale on a live wire, legible on the fine line above the mall, past the bank, expecting the best roadkill, ready to tear out their own hearts, hoping to be read all over in love lyrics, outlining this explosion of inexcrudibly crimson rage. Instinct and Darwin may be enough of an explanation. The scavenger cleanup, delicious, efficient. But what of the invisible wounds that persist under the surface scars, running and ruining the best and leaving the worst to flourish? What of the fledgling survival, wrenched out of the flicker's hole in the wall, or fallen drummed into oblivion with only one tiny wing left in its colorful feathers? Enter the cloud's cover of shadow, embrace the branch of a tree long dissolved into eaves. The nest is woven with detachment, whether or not feathers are illegal, etched on baby shoe rock above like graffiti or petroglyphs. Both white and black are the absence and fullness of color. A rainbow must matter as much as sunlight. Upstairs flooding, melting downstairs into the street like lost generations of any species, encoded in spiraling ladders toward heaven. Noisy, memorized, and memorialized, whether we know it or not, as much as a wren looking for home, caught under glass, or a hummingbird settled like the perfect surprise.